שמחה רבה, שמחה רבה, אביב הגיע, פסח בא. שמחה רבה, שמחה רבה, אביב הגיע, פסח בא.
קדש. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. אורחץ.
Karpas.
Ooh, yummy lettuce. Yachats.
Magid, and the seas parted.
Raksa. Bracha.
Maror.
Ah, that is so hot. Korech. I know you're supposed to put maror, but I only put charaset.
My favorite part of the Seder.
Chifun.
Where can it be?
Barech. Hazan et olam kulo betuva bechem bechesed rachamim. Hallel.
Nirta. Echad mi yodea. Echad mi yodea. Mi yodea. Kadesh orchatz, karpas yachatz, magid rachza, motzi matzah, maror korech, shulchan orech, tzafun barech, halel nitzah.
When we do a lot of things that are kind of weird.
And when we say a lot, we mean a lot. What's with the candle, spoon, and feather every year anyway?
One of those weird things that we do is we drink 4 cups of grape juice.
4? The obvious question is why?
Yeah.
God really wants us to know how God saved us from Egypt.
Really humble, too.
In fact, he described him 4 different ways.
Vehitzalti
And velakachti.
Isn't Velachafti more about becoming a nation than leaving Egypt?
So it's still about us being saved. And doesn't wouldn't that make it 5 words? There also is Kos Eliyahu, or Elijah's cup, which would make it 5. If you say so.
Kiddush has even more connection to Pesach than you might realize.
Because it's mentioned specifically even on just a regular Shabbat.
So we mention the Pesach topic every week?
And even on other holidays? How does that make sense? That is a video for another time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Why do we tell the Pesach story?
We researched the question, why do we tell the Passover story? We found 4 reasons for why we do this.
In Dvarim chapter 16, verse 3, it states, "Remember the day of your departure from the land of Egypt as long as you live." The Torah tells us that we must remember our departure from slavery. This is the first time we learned what to do during the Passover Seder. Remember the suffering of our ancestors and their exodus from slavery. So why do we tell the Passover story? We tell the story to remember our suffering and our saving by God so that the new generations may learn about their oppression and liberation.
According to the Mishnah, we tell the Passover story so that is as though we experienced leaving Egypt ourselves. Exodus Parak 1, Pasuk 14, quote, "In each and every generation, a person must view himself as though he personally left Egypt, as it is stated, and you shall tell your son on that day, saying, it is because of this which the Lord did for me when I came forth out of Egypt," end quote.
Rashi's commentary on Dvarim 16:3, where it is stated that on Passover you can't eat leavened bread, says that through the eating of unleavened bread you shall remember your ancestors' exodus from the land of Egypt, as they had to eat unleavened bread.
Chabad.org says that the purpose of retelling the story is to have it become cemented in our minds and make it an integral part of our everyday lives. We must make it a part of us as a people every day, all the time. If we not put such an emphasis on the Exodus, it cannot be remembered as well. This will go against the motive of telling the story of the Exodus.
We wash our hands without a blessing, because we are not yet eating the matzah and the meal.
We wash our hands and say the blessing, because we are about to eat matzah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Keep your friends and family safe this Pesach. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds before eating. Karpas reminds us of when the Jewish people were crying. The Beitzah is on the Seder plate because it looks like the baby that got sailed across like the river. Mawar reminds us how bitter Pa'ol was. The Mawar reminds us when the Jews were slaves. The Chorosim reminds us how sweet it was when the Israel people arrived in Israel. Karpas reminds us what it's like in Egypt. The pass is on the Seder plate because it reminds us of when the plating when the Egyptians had blood instead of water. Because I think it's because that at the minty smell will remind us that we are free from bloody water. I think because there's a rosette on the Seder plate because when the sea opened, it was sweet when they could get free. The Zroa reminds me of after the plagues because all that was left was their bone. The Zroa reminds us how Pharaoh did not let the Jews out. The Chazeret reminds us of the bad parts that happened to the Jews, like getting through the Red Sea.
During Yachatz, we break the middle matzah. One reason we break it is because matzah is supposed to be lechem oni, which means bread of poverty, and the poor can only afford a broken piece of matzah. Another reason we split the middle matzah in two is to remember the splitting of the sea. Half of the broken matzah is put aside as the afikoman. The afikoman is the last thing we eat at the Seder. Many people have the custom of hiding the afikoman for the kids to find during the Seder.
At the Seder, we have 3 matzot. One reason for this is that we use the first matzah for saying the blessing over eating bread, the second matzah for the special blessing for eating matzah, and the last matzah for the hillel sandwich.
Matzah is unleavened bread. It is made without yeast, and it must be baked quickly. Matzah is important because when we were fleeing Egypt, our ancestors didn't have time for our bread to rise. Also, in the Torah, God says that the Jews need to celebrate Passover by getting rid of all of their chametz and only eating matzah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam asher kitchenenu mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
Shebeho halelot Anochi hametu matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah Shebeho halelot Anochi She'ayerakot Halayla za Shebeho halelo and anamapilim Afilu pa'am ehad Halayla za halayla Bechol halelot Anochi beifminim Halayla hazeh kulanu mesubim Halayla hazeh kulanu mesubim. Why do we eat matzah?
So one of the questions that you guys asked is, why do we eat matzah on Passover?
We found many different answers in our research throughout many sources.
For example, in Exodus 12:15-20, it is written that for 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the very first day you shall remove leaven from your house.
The Torah continues by saying, "You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. From this very day I brought your ranks out of the land of Egypt." The Mishnah Pesachim says, "On all other nights we eat chametz and matzah, and on Passover we only eat matzah."
We commemorate the unleavened bread of the Jews when they were leaving Egypt by eating unleavened bread, matzah, on Passover.
There are also different types of matzah that you can eat in order to fulfill your obligation of eating matzah on Passover. These include regular matzah, which we usually eat, shemura matzah that's specially guarded, and mitzvah matzah.
I believe that we eat matzah on Passover in order to remember what our ancestors had to go through.
I agree with Eleanor. I personally believe that we eat matzah on Passover not only because the Jews were in a rush to make bread, so it turned out like matzah, but also to have something that we can remember our ancestors by.
I think we eat matzah to put ourselves into the shoes of the Israelites. Their bread didn't rise in time, so it was unleavened bread.
Similarly to what Ariel and Eleanor said, my understanding of why we eat matzah on Passover is because it builds a connection between our nation, the Jews, today, and our ancestors from the Passover story.
We hope we answered your question.
טעם, צפרדע, פנינים, ערוב, דבר, שכין, ברד, הרבה, חושך, מכת בכורות.
בכל דור ודור חייב חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים.
On Pesach, we sing a song called Bechol Dor Vador.
It goes, Bechol Dor Vador Chayav Adam Lirot Et Etzmo Ke'ilu Hu Yatsa Mitzrayim.
In English, that means, in each generation we must view ourselves as if we were the ones who were liberated from Egypt.
This means that we should put ourselves in the shoes of the Israelites who went from slavery to freedom.
But how can we do this? Are we supposed to go into a time machine and literally relive what they went through?
But we don't need to go too far. Unfortunately, we've had so many traumatic experiences this year.
For example, we all know the struggles everyone has gone through recently with COVID-19. Okay, but what about reliving our ancestors being free from slavery?
Well, it hasn't happened yet. Things may soon get back to normal. Scientists have already made a vaccine, and millions of Americans have already been vaccinated.
So in a way, we are being freed from the coronavirus, just like our ancestors were freed from being slaves.
Happy Passover!
What is an afikomen?
Afikomen is the bigger piece of the matzah we split during Yachat and is saved for dessert. It is customary for the adults of the Seder to hide it and for the children to steal it, or find it, and ask for a reward in return for finding it.
On a deeper level, splitting the matzah represents splitting the Red Sea and our freedom from Egypt, which is, of course, what the whole holiday of Pesach is celebrating.
According to Gemara, the reason we do this is to keep the children awake. According to Makor Chaim, this custom demonstrates the love for the mitzvah of the afikomen.
Midrash Plea says that Isaac told Esau, "Your brother came with trickery," adding, "and he took out the afikomen." Therefore, the children steal the afikomen to get the blessings in the form of presents, which they ask their parents to buy for them.
What is Hallel? Hallel is the part in the Seder where we give praise to God. It happens towards the end of the Seder. We give in praise for things we're thankful for. In Hallel, we give praise by singing. Our class learned and sang Bitzei Yisrael, which is one of the tefillah from Hallel. In Bitzei Yisrael, we are giving praise to God for freeing us from Egypt.
Bitzei Yisrael mimitzrayim, Beit Yaakov le'am loed.
הייתה יהודה לקדשו, ישראל ממשלתה.
הים רב וינוס, הירדן ייסעו לאחור.
ההרים רקדו חיילים, גבעות, כבני צאן, מלך הים, Kitanus, Kijanis.
Hayarden.
Hayarden.
Tisol Flayachor.
Tisloch Leach.
Peharim.
Terkadu Halim.
Terkadu Elim.
Gevaut.
Gevaut.
Hivneson.
Shivneson.
Bilivneadon.
Bilivneadon.
Huliaret.
Huliaret.
Milivne.
Milivne.
Elohayakov.
Elohayakov. Ahothiatzor. Ahothiatzor. Agamayim. Agamayim. Halamish. Halamish. Lemanomayim. Lemanomayim.